Hello, hello again, South Florida. This is Jenny Jones, and welcome to episode number 2 with my favorite newspaper guy, Chris Perkins. We used to work together over at the Sun
Yeah.
Sentinel, but he's doing big things, and I'm doing this. But that's okay. We're going to turn our lemons into lemonade. And you see the yellow that I got on? Lemons into lemonade. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me. Look, we out here on the water. This is the life. I like hanging out with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm your friend with the boat then.
That's it.
That's it.
That's you gotta know the right people, right?
I knew we needed to know each other when we were at the Sun Sentinel.
Exactly.
I didn't get to hardly ever see you though. I was over in the high school sports department.
And I was never in the office anyway.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
never did come in,
No.
but that's okay. He's my newspaper brother from
Mhm.
another mother.
That's right.
So Chris, what have you been up to lately? Tell us, a little bit. 30 years in the industry, but what are you
Yeah.
doing now? Because I know there's been some stops here, some stops there,
Yeah.
because the newspaper industry is a little volatile right now.
We're in the toilet. Let's be honest, we're in the toilet. But
I'm
look,
trying to be nice.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is a
no.
positive show. This is a positive show.
It's positive, but we're going to be real here. So,
Okay.
yeah, our business is in the tank. But I'm on my 17th year covering the Dolphins for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. This is my third time at the Sun Sentinel. So I started off there way back in '97. I did from '97 to 2000. Then I went and did the Miami Dolphins from 2000 to '02. Went and did the Heat from '02 to 12, and then came back to the Dolphins in 2012. So I've been around a lot.
I
I've covered
see.
baseball. I covered 3 years of the Texas Rangers, 10 years of the Heat, and 17 years of the Dolphins. So that's 30 years in pro locker rooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I did say this was a positive show, but in those 17
Right.
years,
I know.
we've not had a lot of winning.
No.
So, are you going to bring us some good news? Can we expect a better
No.
season next season?
No.
What do we
Well,
get?
you're looking at here's the deal with the Dolphins right now is that they have a win now offense with a rebuilding defense. So to me, I think you're looking at a 9-win team. No playoffs, no playoff win. I don't know if Mike McDaniel, the coach, and Chris Greer are going to survive this because to me, that's where most of the problem is with Mike McDaniel and his offense. It's a one-dimensional offense. It's all about Tyreek Hill. I'll give you some numbers. In the last 2 years, the Dolphins are 11-0 when Tyreek has 100 or more yards receiving and they average 35 points per game. When he has 99 or fewer yards, they're 7-16 and they only average 18 points per game.
Wow.
In that time, the Dolphins are 2-10 against playoff teams, and this is my big thing with the Dolphins. They can't beat teams that are as good or better than them. So the last 2 years, they're 2-10 against playoff teams. During that time, neither Tyreek Hill nor Jalen Waddle had a 100-yard receiving game, and Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback, has 15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. That's the whole thing right there. People
That's
can
it
blame
right
the
there.
defense and the offensive line all they want. This is about Mike McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle. They don't come through in the big games.
And that's what we need,
Yeah,
them to come through
exactly.
on the big games because, beating a team that you should have been, by 70 points or whatever.
Right.
Okay, yeah, we feel a little good. We feel like we can
Right,
pump our
right.
chest out a little bit, but still, we need for you to win when it matters.
You got to beat Buffalo. You got to beat Baltimore. You got to
Yes.
beat Kansas City. You got to beat Philly. You got to beat San Francisco. These are the teams that are in front of you, and they're where you want to be. You've got to figure out a way to beat those teams.
And we thought when Tom Brady left the Patriots that it was
Yeah.
it was our turn
Right.
to move up the ladder,
Josh
to move up the
Josh
AFC
Allen said,
ladder.
"Oh my beer." Right, and here he comes now. Yeah, and they can't beat. They're Mike McDaniel and Tua are 1-6 against Josh Allen. 1-6. I mean, and they just regularly spank the Dolphins. I mean, there's been a couple of close games that the 30-27 game that the Dolphins lost, the 34-31 playoff game that they lost, but they also got beat here 31-10 this year. They got beat up there 48-20.
Yes,
They get spanked by Buffalo. They're not in Buffalo's class, and that's the problem.
that's the problem. So we're still still going to be still waiting on our turn to
Yeah,
climb up
they're
that
struggling.
that
Still
yes,
struggling.
to
Still
climb up
struggling.
that yes.
Yep.
I'm like, give us some hope. This is South Florida. My show is about South Florida.
Yep.
Loving South Florida, loving water, loving sports team. Give us some good hope. What do you got?
Here's the hope for the Dolphins to me is that this offense can actually turn it around and carry this team to the places that it should carry the team. This team is built on offense. It's built on Mike McDaniel's brain and then Tua and Tyreek. That's basically what this team is about. And so the hope for this year is that those guys can somehow put it together and take this team to some new heights. You know, defensively, you've got good hope with Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator. This dude is a stud. Look, I mean, Anthony Weaver is going to be a head coach somewhere very soon, maybe next season. He can get this defense pointed in the right direction. They were number 10 in the league, or number 4 in the league last year. The year before, when Vic Fangio was the defense coordinator, they were number 10 in the league. So if the defense can do what it's done the last 2 years, and this offense can get it turned around, there's hope for a playoff berth this year. So there's some hope. There's some hope. You know, that's how we need to. Yeah.
Let me ask you, because since you are in the know, you should be in the know. What happened with Vic Fangio? Because he left us, and then he went over there, and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. See, here's what happened with Fangio is that Mike McDaniel has a player empowerment thing where he's, you know, they will listen to the players as much as the players listen to them. I'm not in favor of that. I think the adults should be the adults. The coaches should be the adults. And so what happened was the Vic Fangio didn't listen to the players enough to their liking.
Right.
They thought they knew the best way, so they basically were turned off by Vic. Vic decides to mutually depart, which is the line with Jalen Ramsey now, right?
Yeah.
Mutual parting of ways. And two of the guys who are the biggest outspoken critics of Vic Fangio, Sean Smith and Jalen Ramsey, well, Sean Smith didn't play under Anthony Weaver, just like he didn't play under Vic Fangio. And Jalen Ramsey now wants to be traded. And you know, so it's like you should have listened to Vic Fangio.
Yes.
You know, this dude went and won a Super Bowl. You guys got turned into an 8-9 team. You had a losing record. Like, listen to the adults.
I'm like, I seen a pattern.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like when players, they leave us and then they go to other teams and it's like Super Bowl bound.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people when people leave us,
Yep.
then they go to these other teams, they go to the Super Bowl. So I'm like, you know, if you want to get your bets in, listen to the Sports Girl, because the last few years, that's what it's been. We had players go to the Kansas City Chiefs. They won. Vic Fangio left us and went to the Eagles.
Yeah.
They won.
Yeah.
So,
or you've had players like Rob Hunt, the guard, who went to Carolina and made it to the Pro Bowl. Andrew Van Ginkel, the edge rusher, goes to Minnesota. He makes the Pro Bowl. And so, yeah, you're wondering, what is it with the Dolphins? Why can't they get the most out of their players? Why can't they get the most out of the team? I think they need a change of strategy and philosophy under Mike McDaniel. We'll see if it happens this year, but I think you have the players. You have the talent. Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel did a good job amassing talent. They just did not use the talent in the right way.
But what was that one player that left and went to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Him and his mom were like on the soapbox that they're not using me
that was
to the best of my
Brian Flores.
To the best of my talent. So it's, I guess then too, you look at it, it's maybe not just a Mike McDaniels thing, maybe it's a Dolphins thing.
It's, you know, I thought that they used their talent in the right way under Mike McDaniel. The Minkah Fitzpatrick thing, look, personally, I wouldn't have traded Minkah. I'd have told Minkah, look, you keep your little butt over here and you listen to this coach. Minkah's a Hall of Famer. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. You don't let Hall of Fame talent go.
At all.
You tell you lock these two dudes in a room and you say, y'all figure this out, because we're not letting Hall of Fame talent go. I think that's where the Dolphins messed up on that. But the Dolphins, I think that they've In the past, I think they've used their talent correctly. They just haven't had as much talent as they've had under Mike McDaniel. They really, I'll take my hat off to Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer. They've done a really good job of amassing talent. They put together a very talented team. The team just didn't perform on the field.
And then Tua got hurt.
Yeah, and Tua got hurt.
Yeah, so Tua got hurt.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem. I'm not a big Tua injury guy. I'm big on when Tua was healthy in 2023 for all 17 games.
We were rolling.
You were rolling, but you still couldn't beat good teams. The Dolphins were 1-6 that year against playoff teams, and they got beat by an average score of 32-16. That's a butt kicking. You're not even. They doubled you up, 32-16. Yeah. And Tua was healthy. Tyreek was healthy. Waddle was healthy. How can you only average 16 points per game with that offense over a 7-game sample? That's almost half your season. Yeah. So that's the problem with the Dolphins is that good teams know all we have to do is shut down Tyreek, and we're going to beat the Dolphins.
And we lose our identity. We lose
right.
that.
And I'll give you some other numbers on the Dolphins because you say what happens when Tyreek gets shut down. Do you have a run game? They do have a running game. But over the last 2 years, when they rush for 100 or more yards, they're 8-11. When they rush for 99 or fewer, they're 9-9. So they're actually better when they rush for less than 100 yards. That makes no sense. This offense is upside down. The offense makes no sense. That's where the change has to come with the Dolphins.
But you did just give us like a sliver of some hope for next season.
Yeah, no. Look, and for this season, there's hope for this season.
When I say next season, I mean
you mean 2025 season, right? Okay, I got you. I feel you. Okay. And it's look, again, I think they're a 9-8 team right now. You probably need 11 wins to get to the playoffs. So, can they scratch out an extra 2 wins? Yeah, they could. They actually could. I mean,
it's a matter of, like you said, no quit.
Yeah.
No quit. You got to play. You got to play. What is it?
Relentless.
60 minutes.
Yeah.
You got to just play till the last whistle.
Yep.
Just play till the last whistle. Give us that.
Yeah.
So we're finna move away from the Dolphins just a little bit because, like I said, this is a positive vibes.
Yeah. There we go. Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about the Panthers.
Yeah.
The Panthers.
Look,
going back to that.
Look, back to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yes,
and so and actually I should say Stanley Cup Final. I've been told it's not singular. It's singular. Right. It's singular. Plural. Stanley Cup Final. So I want to appear that I know what I'm talking about.
Why come we can't put our S on there?
I don't know. That's just the way it is. We don't make the rules. You know that. You know that. But I'll tell you this about the Panthers. I admire them so much because they made one of the best trades in South Florida sports history when they traded Huberdeau for Kachuk. And this was after they had lost to Tampa two years ago in the second round of the playoffs. They won the President's Trophy as the highest scoring team in the league, but they realized this style is not going to win in the playoffs. We need to be more physical. We need to be more aggressive. We need to be meaner. They brought in Matthew Kachuk.
Knock some teeth out, physical.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. They need it, and that's what they've become, and they've become a better team for that. They win the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. They could win it again this year, and that was because of that trade. I mean, Huberdeau was an excellent scorer, but he couldn't. His style was more of that pretty boy style, that finesse style. NHL is a grown man's league. And so you better get some grown men, and that's what they did. That was a risky trade. I mean, you were one of the top teams in the league, but you realized you needed to make that move. Bill Zito, their general manager, that's one of the best moves, one of the best trades in South Florida sports history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Better than the Luka trade.
Oh, that Luka trade.
Luka trade that boggled all of our minds.
I know you had my man Tony Fiorentino on before. Or you're going to have them on soon. I don't know what Tony thinks about that trade. Here's what I think. I wouldn't have made it. Now, look, my hat is off to Nico, Dallas's GM, for making that trade. And I know Luka is overweight and he's not in shape. But this man just took you to the finals last year as an overweight, out of shape player.
He's 20-something years old.
Yeah. And this move might turn out working out for Dallas. It might. It's still too early to say. I wouldn't have had the guts to make that trade. There's absolutely no way I would have made that Luka trade.
And I wouldn't have came back out and had the little press conference.
Oh,
I didn't know that the fans loved Luka this much.
Man, I mean, look.
I felt like he was kind of set up.
Yeah, well, you know what? My hat is off to him for coming out and talking and all that kind of stuff because, you know, the fans, I mean, they hated him. Like let's be honest, they hated him.
They did.
And he came out and he spoke and he's appeared at games and he sat out there and you know, I'm sure he hears all kinds of things.
Oh.
I'm sure his wife and kids, if he has that, hear it all the time, every day. You got to be strong to do that. So my hat is off to Nico for making that trade, but Jenny, I wouldn't have made that trade. I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it.
A young superstar?
Yep.
Yes, a young
who can score.
No.
He can just score. He just took you to the finals.
Yes, but anyway, so like I said, back to the positive, back to the Panthers. So I like Paul Maurice. Tell me about Paul Maurice.
He's the right coach for this team because, you know, he's a guy who's got experience, but he knows exactly how to handle this team, exactly when to be, I guess, rough with them and when to kind of let them go. And that's really part of the magic here is that not only did you get the right players, you got the right coach in Paul Maurice. And so, again, that's credit to Bill Zito, the general manager of the Florida Panthers, for recognizing what the situation was and what the situation required. You had to get tougher as a team, and you had to get the right coach, and they did it on both ends. My hat is off to the Panthers.
You know, I kind of felt bad for the coach, the interim coach. You know, he had him winning these games, but couldn't quite get him over the hump.
Right.
And then he was out of there. It's a rough business.
It is.
Hey, look, it's a rough business.
Look, you got to win while you can, and that's the thing, that these windows aren't open for very long.
Yes.
And you look at the Dolphins. We were talking about the Dolphins with their window with Tua and Tyreek. I think that Super Bowl window is closed. You look at the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, they go to, 2 finals, didn't quite win the title, but they took advantage of it. That window is closed now. You've got to take advantage while these windows are open. And again, credit to the Panthers. They realized kind of the time that we're not going to have this team forever. Now. Right. We've got to win now. That this coach is good. We need to be better. And that's what they got in Paul Maurice. They got better.
Yeah, like I said. It just felt kind of rough. I felt bad. I felt bad.
I know. It's a rough world, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a rough world.
The Canes. Let's talk a little Canes. Cam Ward's replacement.
Yeah.
Is he stepping up as the next man up? Is he going to get us to the promised land?
Man, I don't know. You know, it's tough. You know, Carson Beck comes over from Georgia as the Canes quarterback now, and look, Carson Beck is well paid by everything I've read. I think he's maybe $4 million a year or something like that.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
He's got to produce. And look, nobody's expecting him to do what Cam Ward did and you know, the heroics and the comebacks and be the number 1 pick of the draft. People are expecting you to find some consistency with this offense. You know, get them over the hump. None of this kind of up and down stuff. Be consistent. Defensively, the Canes have another issue. That was the big issue, right? And so it was a good thing they had Cam Ward. Defensively, they've got a new defensive coordinator, thank goodness. So we'll see what they can do there. But they've really got to find some stability, the Canes. They were just so up and down last year. And as you said, it was mostly the defense. The offense answered the punch. You know, when they got hit in the face, they delivered another punch.
Okay.
But we got to see that defense be more consistent, and we'll see what Carson Beck can do. I mean, look, are the Canes a playoff team? I don't know if they're a playoff team, but they should be in playoff contention. And I think that's kind of the thing that you're going to be looking for with the Canes is, are you one of those final few teams that's kind of on the bubble when it comes time to pick the playoff teams?
So were we robbed, though, last season, though?
No, I don't think so, because the defense was so bad.
Some kind of way.
That defense. I know that defense. You got robbed by your defense. That's what it was. I mean, it was just some of those
self-inflicted.
Yeah. Because look, everybody was put, well, I say everybody, a lot of people, a lot of outside people, whether you're a TV person or whatever, you were pulling for the Canes. You wanted to see Cam Ward out there. They were exciting. They were good for TV ratings.
What's his name that was on the sidelines all the time?
Michael Irvin.
Michael
Irvin. All down on all fours, right?
We just to see Michael Irvin, when he was
right, exactly. I know.
Yes.
It's I think people wanted to see the Canes in there, but you just couldn't justify it. After the way that defense played, you just couldn't justify it.
Man.
Yeah, but I hope they should be one of the final teams this year if maybe they get into the playoffs. So I think there's a lot of room for optimism and encouragement with the Canes, a lot of room for optimism and encouragement with the Florida Panthers. We'll even see what happens with basketball next year. We know Coach Larinaga left this season, and he was so good for the program, so good for the area, so good for those kids. You talk about being positive, Coach L. That's a positive force in this community.
And that longevity. Like Coach Tony, that longevity, that stability is what you kind of look for and what you can come to depend on when you have that type of coach. Yep. And then he's in the locker room and he's dancing with the kids.
Everybody remembers that, right?
We love that.
Yep.
I mean, it's the feel good that endure us as fans.
Right.
And 100%. And when you're on the media side, you also love it because it just gives you that little something to write about. To feel positive about. So we need that.
We need. As journalists, we love personalities, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of what helps us sell our stories. That helps us tell our stories, right? Exactly. Click. That's it. That is it. That's so important nowadays. And so when you get somebody like Coach L, when you even Mike McDaniel, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Paul Maurice, these guys who know exactly what they're doing and know how to tell a story, know what to share with the public and know what to hold back so they don't embarrass their player. They know how to put something out there to motivate the player. Right?
And so there's a fine line between motivating and
embarrassing.
Criticism. Yes.
Right, and humiliating, right? Because and these coaches are aware that if I say something like that, now social media is going to pick up on it, and it's going to make my players' life harder.
Yes.
And I think our coaches in this area are very aware of that. They know that you don't hear a lot of coaches in our area with undue criticism, unnecessary criticism. Mario Cristobal was very good with that defense last year, right? He could have ripped that defense, but he didn't. These are kids that you're dealing with. And so, Eric Spoelstra knows what to say publicly about Jimmy Butler. Mike McDaniel knows what to say publicly about Tyreek Hill or Jalen Ramsey. These are smart coaches. You've got to have some smart along with the personality also to give your team a chance. So we have been blessed with some good, smart, personable coaches who help us do our jobs better.
Oh, yeah. And we need help.
Yeah.
We need just a little help. I mean, because when the news is not so good,
right,
we need something else where we can, kind of just gravitate
we can say,
to.
Hey, look at this.
Because, if we're just writing the negative all the time, then people want to tune out.
Right.
They want to tune out. Yeah. They stop watching. They want to stop going to the games.
Yep.
And we need them to go to the games.
Yeah.
Yes. We need them to
be interested.
Yes.
We need them to be interested and engaged. And I will tell you that, look, it's not easy nowadays finding those angles to engage people, because by the time we put our stuff out there, they've already seen the game, they've seen the pregame show, the postgame show, they've been on social media, right? Yes. And so, what's left for us? And so it does help when you have the personable coaches or, somebody who knows how to offer a different angle of a story, and then a journalist who knows how to pick up on that and relate that to the people, so that you give somebody something that they can't get anywhere else. Hopefully what we give them, they can't get on social media or on TV or on a podcast. Hopefully we give people something different. That's kind of our job as journalists. You've got to know your team, know your players, know your coaches, know how to get those stories that nobody else can tell. Inside and out.
But you've been doing it for so long, so I'm sure it's kind of easy for you.
Easier. I don't know. Look, as we just said, social media, that's made our jobs a lot tougher. And so
on the news site too,
of
because
course.
if we have to jump through all of the hoops to fact check
Yep.
and and then put it all together, so it's a nice little package for you to watch, a minute and a half
Right.
for you to watch,
Right.
and then you go over here to social media and you got it.
Yep.
10 seconds, 20 seconds, and you got all that you need to know.
Yeah. So it's a challenge for us. It's a challenge for us. But it's a we have a different form of storytelling nowadays that we have to do. And to me, what I like to do with my approach to the job is, as a boots on the ground journalist, somebody who is in the locker room, I talk to players and I use that knowledge, that unique insight that players give me to tell a story. So I'll give you an example. In 2023, we talked about the Dolphins season. Defenses were doing all kinds of strange things, funny things to the Dolphins to stop that offense. And I would talk to players. I had my little contingent of backup quarterbacks, wide receivers, defensive backs. Hey, what are they doing? And so they were telling me, hey, look, the first time we played the Patriots, Bill Belichick, he had Christian Gonzalez shadowing Tyreek, and then they used 3 safeties over the top. Next time we played them, they had safeties and linebackers lined up in weird spots that we had never seen before. They were telling me that Kansas City and Buffalo were jamming Tyreek and Jalen Waddle at the line of scrimmage. Kansas City didn't need to do that because their defensive front, the front 4, were so good that they could just rely on them to have the pass rush. Also with Buffalo, on early downs, along with jamming Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, they were putting pressure on the Dolphins, first down, second down, to get them into third and long. And so I get those by talking to the players, by having a good relationship with the players. I can just come up to the players and say, hey, what's up? Here's what I saw watching film of the game.
What did you
Explain
see?
to me, right, why did this happen? I'll go up to guys at mid-season, weeks before the Buffalo game, and it's always a big deal when they play Josh Allen. Do you want to put a spy on Josh Allen and shadow him? I'll ask a player just in casual conversation, hey, the pros and cons of shadowing Josh Allen. And it's
because he can run. He can run.
Right,
so,
exactly. So part of our challenge of telling different stories, we have to be able to take advantage of whatever it is we have. If it's knowledge, if it's access to players, access to coaches, access to analytics, you have to use that to your advantage and use it to tell the story in a unique way.
Now, how do you balance that? Because if you got to write something bad about them and then you got to come back for some information, how are you balancing that?
You know what? It's good that you bring that up. So Teron Armstead, the former Dolphins left tackle, Pro Bowl left tackle, he just retired, and he had a retirement party. He only invited 7 media members. And he told us afterwards, the reason that I invited you 7 is because you know how to criticize without belittling. And I thought, yes, this man gets me. He understands what I'm trying to do. I'm not out there trying to humiliate or belittle or embarrass players.
Right.
These guys work very hard at their craft. They work hard to be where they are.
Right.
There's a whole community behind these players, whether it's their family, their high school, their church, whoever. Like
even us, because
even us.
we're in the age to where we as journalists, we can say we're rooting for that team. I mean, it's no secret anymore. It's not like taboo like it used to be.
Yeah. And so it's a craft to be able to tell that story fairly when a player is not doing well, but in a way that the player will look and say, he's right, I'm not playing well. As opposed to, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. He hates me. He's talking trash. It's a fine line. And so that's part of being a professional, is you've got to have that relationship with the players. And and the players have to trust that, if I tell this guy something, he's not going to turn and use it against me and make me look stupid. He's going to use that information to educate the fans and explain my situation, as opposed to ripping me for not succeeding in this situation.
So now, did you play some football?
So
you got that knowledge that's back here somewhere?
You know what? I played baseball in high school. And so I played a year of basketball. I wrestled for a year, but I was best at baseball. And so that's kind of what I stuck to. Played a couple of years of semi-pro baseball in Dallas, but nothing. That was just kind of beer leagues. That was nothing serious. But really, mine comes from being in the business and talking to coaches and talking to players. and you use that knowledge and you build upon that knowledge. When they tell you something, you look for it. When they tell me how teams are defending Tyreek Hill, okay, so now the next game I'm going to look. Are they doing that, or have they changed it up? And then you go to Tyreek and other players. Well, why did they change it up? Or why did they do the same thing? And you build on that knowledge week to week, month to month, year to year, and that's
30
that's
years in, you kind of
hopefully it's good knowledge. Yeah, hopefully it is. Some people might say it's only up to here. I like to think it's up to here.
I read your columns. I enjoy your columns because you give that little twist on the take and what you know what you see,
right?
And and since you're in the locker room, what you're hearing,
right?
So I enjoy. Like I said, I enjoy your column in Texas.
Yeah,
You're from
Texas. I'm from Texas. So I was basically 10 years in Chicago. I was born in Chicago. Basically 10 in Chicago. Well, you're going to know my age now. 10 in Chicago, 10 in San Antonio, 10 in Dallas, 28 here. So yeah.
Okay, I'm not good with the math right now.
58.
But
I'm going to add it up. 58.
See? Okay.
Yeah.
Black don't crack.
Yeah, that's it.
The black don't crack.
That's it.
The black don't crack.
That's it.
But no, I just like to see. I like to see us doing well. You know, and I wanted to have you on here and celebrate your success. Yep. And if you had to write your memoirs, what would you say about Chris Perkins?
You know what? I'll say this, that I work for everything that I have. And I was the guy who, I started out right out of high school at newspapers. What I did was I wrote letters to the three TV stations and the 2 newspapers. I want to be a sports writer. I want to cover high school sports, blah, blah, blah. One guy at the San Antonio Light, Bobby Clay, knew my name from high school baseball. So he gave me a shot. And that was my foot in the door. And so I was always the guy who stayed late at the office afterwards, making calls to, this is Texas high school football. So if we can't get the score, we're calling the fire station, we're calling the Dairy Queen, and all these small towns because somebody knows the score. But I was always the guy who was staying late, who was doing more, who was trying to prove himself, going the extra mile. And so that was really how I made it. I don't have a college degree. I went to college. I was a 6-year junior. I spent a lot of room in the pool hall and playing intramurals and working though. But it's just kind of a self-made person who, I worked my butt off. I saw something that I wanted, and I worked and I worked and I worked. And so on Friday nights, while a lot of my friends are out partying, I'm calling the Dairy Queen to find out this small town high school football score.
Wow,
that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm from a little small town. Well, you're part of Texas. You probably weren't so small, but I'm from like Oklahoma. So
yep. I know
I feel that kindred
spirit.
Yeah.
So you know about chicken fried steak. All right, see?
I know about it. Don't make me hungry. I know about it, and don't make me hungry.
Exactly.
With the white gravy.
Yeah, cream gravy. Yeah. Tell them now.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh my goodness.
Potatoes, maybe some green beans.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go to Cracker Barrel after this.
Exactly.
Let's go to Cracker Barrel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but like I said, you've been doing this for 30 years, and like I said, I admire people who can stick around and be successful and do that. Because like I said, Coach Tony, I had talked to Coach Tony, and he was 37 years in. And I'm like, I started getting the itch at 7 years.
Right. Yeah.
It's time to move on. But I mean, at least you had a little bit of a journey here and a little bit of a journey there. And so
and
here you are.
Yeah, and I've been laid off twice. I got laid off at the Palm Beach Post during the recession. I got laid off at the Athletic during COVID. I wrote news for 2 years at the Sun Sentinel. So, it hasn't been all sports. You talk about being a self-made man. I was covering weather. I was covering cops and courts. I was covering breaking news. So I was doing rapes and murders and hit and runs. I was going to court cases. I did that for 2 years. So, The other thing that I would also say is in business, you learn don't burn bridges. I've been at the
Yes.
Sun Sentinel 3 times. Like,
Yes.
who gets hired 3 times at a place? But don't burn bridges. Keep those connections going. Sometimes there's stuff you want to say to people on your way out the door. You better bite your
Hold
tongue.
it.
Right.
Hold
Do you know the old saying, be careful how you treat people on the way up because you might see them on the way down.
Oh,
So,
I got some people that need to get that message.
yeah, I know, right? I
That
know.
need to get that
Exactly,
message because
exactly.
in the news industry, it's rough.
Yep, it is.
In the moment. It's
Yep,
breaking,
yep.
and you may have a harsh word to say right then, but it doesn't hurt you to come back and say, you know what?
Right.
We were in it.
Yep.
We were in the thick of it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, and because you keep scarring people, then there's a
Right.
then there's a scab.
Right. It's a permanent wound.
And then you have a problem. And I
Yep.
said it doesn't hurt you to be kind. I try to be kind, because like when I'm talking to the reporters, you know what? You did good with what
Yep.
you did good
Yep.
with what I gave you. I like how I like how you put the spin
Right.
on it. And just you did a good job. I know you get a paycheck,
Right.
but you did good.
Yep.
A compliment,
Yeah.
it costs you nothing to give
Correct.
somebody that compliment.
Yep.
Give them their flowers.
Yep.
Because a lot of people are getting burned out in this industry,
Oh, yeah.
whether it's news
Yep.
or newspaper.
Yep.
And like I said, you see social media just doing whatever they want,
Right.
but we have these standards
Right.
that we have to adhere to,
Right.
and social media is getting all the glory.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny, it's one thing that we have to kind of fight. Human nature is to be snarky to people and be mean and belittle them, and everybody's going to laugh at it on social media.
Yeah.
And to me, it's two things. Number one is being a decent human being. That's more important. But number two is being a professional. And when you're a professional journalist, there are standards of decency and fair play.
Right.
And you can't just humiliate and belittle people like that. There's a standard that you have to hold yourself to as a
Yes.
professional journalist. And so social media doesn't have that. Social media is just about get me clicked, get me attention, get
Yes.
me looked at. And that's kind of one of the things that we have to fight as professional journalists. It's a tough fight, but you have to think that being a professional and your standard and your way of doing things in the long run is going to shine through and earn
And
you
come
more
back.
respect.
Yes. And I had a little self-taught lesson. Jalen Rose, when he was on I think it was probably ESPN or something, his name is Rose, so he would wear, a big rose on his lapel.
Right.
And it was too big.
Yep.
And I said something about it. I said, Jalen Rose got like a garden on his lapel or, something like
Right,
that.
right.
And then he came back and
Yep.
he changed it and he commented back to me. And I said, you know what? See, that right there was my lesson that, like you said, you don't have to always come at people
Right.
the negative way.
Right.
You can just come in a positive way and
Yep.
say, you know what? You would really look better with a smaller rose on your lapel. We get it. That's your name.
Right.
I made the connection.
Right.
But, that
Yeah.
taught me a lesson because I said, that's not the person that I wanted to be. I said, that's not who I was raised to be. So
Right.
that's not who I am. But, so
Yeah.
that was my social media lesson that he kind of taught me.
Yeah.
And
Hey.
I was just happy that he even
That he
responded back
acknowledged,
to me.
right, exactly, right.
That he even acknowledged me. I still got it. I still got it on my timeline.
Yep.
But yeah, because I like him.
Yeah.
I like
he's
him,
good
but I
people.
was just
he's
like,
good people. Right, chill out. Right,
Shrink the flower just
Less
a
is
little
more.
bit.
Right,
Just a
less is
little
more.
bit.
You know what? And it's funny that you bring that up because I'm always very aware that you leave a trail on social media.
Yes,
And look, a lot of employers will tell you one of the first things they do nowadays is they go
Check
to your
it.
social media, right? Is
Check
he
it.
saying stupid stuff? Is he saying hateful stuff? I just want to leave a trail of positivity.
Yes.
And so if I'm on social media and people are like, hey, Perk, you're a blank, a lot of times I'll just laugh. I'll just send back a smiling face and have a good day. I hope your day gets better,
Yeah.
or something. I'm not going in the mud with you. Like I'm not. It's
But
so negative.
you don't win. You know how that
Right,
that argument
right,
where they
exactly.
say there's two people arguing and
Yep.
you can't tell which one is the fool.
Yep, exactly.
That's definitely social media.
Yeah.
All day.
All day, all
Yeah.
day. And so I don't like to. I would rather be positive. It's easy to be negative. It's tougher to be positive, but people need that positivity, especially on social media, where it's just attack, belittle, laugh. People need something positive, something uplifting. So I try to do that. I don't know if I'm making an impact, but I try to do it.
I enjoy your stories, so
Okay, that's
you
good.
know,
That's good. So
I
impact,
enjoy them.
Yeah.
So you touched me, and definitely appreciate you coming on with me.
Oh, thanks
You
for
know,
having me.
on my new adventure. So come
Well,
along with me on the fantastic
That's
voyage.
it. I'm on the lakeside.
You know,
Look at you.
okay. See,
Look
I
at
know there's
you.
something.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but
Okay.
anything else you want to share with us before we get out of here about Chris Perkins?
No, I think you've heard it all. I would just say that again I try to be fair to people, journalistically and personally, because again it's just so easy to be negative and to tear down. And even when I'm talking about the Dolphins, I try not to. I try to be real. I try to be honest. I'm not going to blow smoke and tell you the Dolphins are going to go 12-5 and they're going to get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I try to be realistic, but in a respectful way.
Right.
I don't want to belittle Tua or belittle Mike McDaniel or Tyreek, I'm just trying to tell the truth. So I hope that that's the thing that comes through in my writing, is that I'm fair and I'm honest and I'm truthful without belittling or humiliating or embarrassing.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Well, we ended that on the positive.
Yeah,
we ended that on the positive.
Yeah.
So, Chris Perkins, tell us where everybody can read your work.
At sunsentinel.com. That's where you're going to see everything that I do on sunsentinel.com, and you can catch my podcast during the season, Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. We're usually on Tuesdays at noon, so start looking for that probably around August when training camp is in the thick of.
All right, then. Well, thanks again for joining us, and thank you, Chris.
Oh,
it was my pleasure. Like I said, my newspaper brother from another mother.
Exactly.
And it was great catching up with you again. And, those Sun Sentinel roots.
That's it.
Going
deep.
They
run deep.
All righty. That's it for this second episode of Talking on Water, and we hope you enjoyed it.